This is the Dewalt 20V cordless sliding miter saw with model number DCS361. I want to premise this video on why I went with this model versus other sliding miter saws that are arguably bigger and better. First, I am aware that there are sliding miter saws out there with 10-inch and even 12-inch blades. And while they are great in terms of a larger cut capacity, for a guy like me who is just a DIYer, those things are overkill for my needs. I rarely ever cut anything thicker than 1.5 inches, plus I'm still pretty intimidated by machines with big blades. Secondly, the battery platforms. So a few months ago, I got to try the Makita 40V sliding miter saw, and while I have to say that sliding miter saw was a sexy beast, I'm not invested in the Makita 40V line yet. Currently, I am invested in the 18V Ryobi line, 20V Dewalt line, and Makita 18V line. I actually got access to Ryobi's 18V sliding miter saw and will do a review video on that too. I believe there is a sliding miter saw from Makita with a 7.5-inch blade that uses two 18V batteries. Maybe we can do another video on that later on. Let's see. Anyway, back to this saw. There are a bunch of things that I like about it and 3 things that I don't like that might be a deal breaker for some of you. So let's start with those. Number 1, no depth stop. Maybe the biggest feature omission from this sliding miter saw is the lack of a depth stop. Most any other miter saw I've used has had a depth stop feature on it. For some reason, Dewalt didn't include one in this model, which is weird. But now ask me how many times I've used the depth stop on my miter saw to cut dados or for any reason for that matter. Never. Having said this, I suppose if you really wanted to fashion a hack for this, there is a way. I just taped a few washers on the saw and it worked just fine as a depth stop. I suppose you could cut some scraps to fashion a custom depth for your needs, but I don't know. It seems like a lot of trouble. Number 2, tedious change blade process. To be fair, every other miter saw I've seen has the same tedious blade change process. Basically, you have to unscrew a bolt to lift the guard and expose the bolt that holds your blade. So this is how most all miter saws do it. However, I saw that the Ryobi 18V sliding miter saw has this nifty mechanism where if you lift the blade guard past a certain point, it stays there. I thought that was pretty cool and wish Dewalt did it too. Of course, how often do you really change your miter saw blades? I guess it's forgivable, but still, it would have been a nice feature. Number 3, the miter clamp feels like an afterthought. The miter clamp included feels like a little bit of an afterthought. If you look at it, it reminds me of those track saw clamps, which I guess is a good thing because then it's multi-purpose. It just looks different from how most miter clamps typically look like. Having said this, it might feel a little flimsy and loose, but once you lock it down, it works. The thing isn't going anywhere, so again, not a deal breaker for me. So those are the 3 things which, after saying it out loud, I would consider minor things I don't like. Overall, I'm still very happy with this miter saw, and here's why. Out of the box, it was accurate. Blade was square to the surface and to the fence. No calibration or adjustment was needed on my part. Same comment on the miter stops. There are so many miter stops for the most common angles and every single one of them was dead on. The locking system is also so simple and intuitive. You just press this to make an adjustment, hold it down if you want to skip over any of the stops, and to lock it down, you just push it down. Simple, easy, intuitive. I love that. There's onboard storage for the adjustment tool, which is great too because DeWalt went with a star or Torx head bolts for some parts and Allen heads for others. You don't want to lose this. There are carry handles on the sides and top of the unit, so pretty much any probable means of lifting this thing was considered and they placed handles to match. I like it when a unit is intuitive like that. That's why they need to work on that blade guard lift and stay to change feature thingy. Finally, the overall build of the unit is just vintage DeWalt. It's beefy, most of it is metal, which adds to the weight, but because it's small, it's still light enough to carry with one hand. It feels sturdy, strong, and just a workhorse like other DeWalt tools. Final thoughts. Are there features I wish this unit had? Yes. I really wish they included a depth stop feature and simplified the blade change process. And I'm not sure about that miter clamp. Part of me likes it because it's multi-purpose. Are these emissions though deal breakers for me? Not at all. I love this thing for reasons already mentioned. I'm glad I bought it, and until a better one comes my way, I'm keeping it.